The air in the courtroom felt heavy, thick with an unspoken tension. A hushed murmur rippled through the gathered crowd, a mix of anticipation and curiosity as they found their seats. Some leaned forward slightly, eager to witness what was about to unfold, while others shifted uncomfortably, sensing that this was no ordinary trial. Overhead, fluorescent lights hummed softly, their sterile glow casting sharp contrasts between the polished wooden benches and the stern-faced judge sitting at the front of the room. Standing near the witness stand, Officer Bradley Carter exhaled slowly, adjusting his tie with the practiced ease of a man who had been in this position more times than he could count. He rolled his shoulders back, confidence radiating from him. After all, this was routine. This courtroom? These trials? They were familiar territory. He had stood here countless times, testifying against defendants who had little hope of contradicting his statements.
Why?
Because his word carried weight.
He was the law.
His badge, his uniform, his authority, it all spoke louder than any civilian ever could.
And today?
Today would be no different, or so he thought. Before we continue, where are you watching this from? Let us know in the comments below. Across the room, at the defendant's table, sat Monica James. Unlike the restless audience, she was still, unnervingly composed. Clad in a crisp navy blue suit, she looked impeccable, not a single crease out of place. Her deep brown skin stood in striking contrast against the bright white collar of her blouse. Her posture was so rigid, so straight, it almost seemed unnatural. Yet there was something in her gaze. Something firm. Something unwavering. It was as if she already knew exactly how this trial would end before it had even begun. Officer Carter barely spared her a glance. To him, she was just another person trying to wriggle out of the consequences of her actions. He had seen it before. He knew how this played out. What he didn't know, what no one in that room knew, was that today would mark the single greatest mistake of his career. The judge, an older man with graying hair and tired eyes, pushed his glasses further up his nose as he carefully scanned the case file in front of him. He let out a small sigh before giving a single nod in the prosecutor's direction. Proceed. Carter stepped forward. His steps were firm, his demeanor professional, his voice unwavering. He had rehearsed this statement in his head more times than he needed to. Your Honor, he began, standing tall, his hands clasped neatly in front of him. On the night of June 14th, I conducted a routine traffic stop on the defendant, Monica James, for reckless driving. She was uncooperative and refused to provide identification when asked. Upon requesting that she exit the vehicle, she became hostile, leaving me no choice but to detain her. His tone was firm, each word deliberate, calculated. The jury members listened closely, their expressions neutral. This was a simple case, wasn't it? A police officer's sworn testimony against a civilian's word. How often did that end in favor of the latter? Carter continued, his voice steady, confident. During a subsequent search of her vehicle, I discovered suspicious items that gave me reason to believe she was engaged in illegal activity. Given her aggressive behavior and her failure to comply, I had probable cause to take her into custody. Everything I did, he turned slightly toward the judge, his tone unwavering, was by the book. Silence stretched across the room. Monica still hadn't moved. Her hands remained folded neatly in her lap. No flinch, no frown, no reaction whatsoever. She simply waited. The judge finally turned to her, his gaze steady. Miss James, do you have anything to say before I make my rulings? Slowly Monica stood. She smoothed the cuffs of her blazer, fixing an invisible wrinkle before stepping forward, her every movement controlled, deliberate. Despite the high stakes, she carried herself like someone who had nothing to prove, yet everything to reveal. With all due respect, Your Honor, she began, her voice calm, unwavering. Before I respond, may I present some credentials? The prosecutor, already preparing his closing argument, let out an audible scoff. The judge raised an eyebrow but nodded. Proceed. Reaching into her bag, Monica retrieved a sleek black leather ID case. She strode forward, handing it to the bailiff, who then carried it to the judge. The moment the judge flipped it open, his entire demeanor shifted. His eyes widened slightly, scanning the text once, then again. The neutrality in his face gave way to something else, something between disbelief and respect. Carter frowned. He hadn't expected this. "What is this?" the judge asked, his voice carrying a newfound curiosity. Monica clasped her hands in front of her, tilting her head ever so slightly. "That," she said evenly, "is my military identification. I am Lieutenant Commander Monica James, a high-ranking officer in the United States Navy SEALs." The entire courtroom fell into stunned silence. Carter's posture stiffened. His confidence, his absolute certainty, wavered for the first time. Monica's voice remained steady, unwavering. "I have served in 4 combat tours overseas, led classified military operations, completed some of the most grueling training known to man. I have sworn an oath to uphold the Constitution and to protect this country with my life." She let her words sink in before locking eyes with Carter. "And yet this officer, who had never met me before that night, stood here, under oath, and blatantly lied about me." The jury exchanged uneasy glances. The prosecutor shifted in his seat. The audience murmured. The room, once a place of quiet judgment, had transformed into something else entirely, a reckoning. Monica reached into her bag, once more. "I would like to submit evidence." She held up a USB drive. "This contains dashboard camera footage from my vehicle. Footage that directly contradicts Officer Carter's testimony." The judge gestured for the bailiff to retrieve it. Within moments, the courtroom screen flickered to life. The video played. It was crystal clear. Monica had been nothing but respectful. She had provided her ID on the first request. She had complied with every instruction. And yet, there was Carter. His voice, his tone, his aggression escalating without reason. The final blow? The audio clip. A conversation caught on tape. Carter's voice sneering. "No one's going to believe her over a cop. She's just another." That remind us of the importance of integrity, respect, and justice. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. The recording cut off.
The courtroom gasped.
The judge's expression darkened. The prosecutor swallowed hard, clearing his throat. "Your Honor," he said, his voice noticeably strained, "in light of this new evidence, we request all charges against Miss James be dropped immediately and formally launch an investigation into Officer Carter's conduct." The judge didn't hesitate. Agreed. The gavel slammed down. Carter's face drained of color. 2 officers approached him. For the first time in his career, Officer Bradley Carter was the one being led away. As he passed Monica, she simply watched him go. "You assumed I was just another black woman you could intimidate," she said, her voice calm, yet powerful. "Next time? Do your job with integrity if there even is a next time." Carter had no response. His career? Over. As Monica gathered her belongings and walked toward the exit, the once hushed courtroom filled with whispers, not of doubt, but of admiration. That day, justice wasn't just served, it was delivered with precision. And the world learned an unforgettable lesson. Never underestimate someone based on their appearance, because you never know who you're really dealing with. If you found this story inspiring, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more powerful tales. Together, we can share lessons.